Good day, everyone. My name is Musa Mohammed Mancha, Section 1D, Gulias College of Medicine, Philippines. Today, we are going to be discussing a particular bone in the human skeletal system. And that bone is actually called the scapula. Okay? Before we continue, this is actually the bone box where we have the different type of bone that actually make up the human skeletal system. We have the femur, we have the humerus, we have the scapula, we have the skull, the different part of the skull. But like I said, today we are going to discuss only specifically the scapula. Now, from the bone box, this is the particular bone that we call the scapula, okay? This is a model of the human body. Looking at the human body, we are going to try to get the anatomical position of this particular scapula. Scapula is located at the posterior part of the shoulder. This particular scapular bone that I'm holding, this is actually the left scapula. If I want to get the anatomical position, I will try to position it like this on my own body. So the same I can do it to this particular human model. Okay? So this particular scapula is to the left scapula. And it's actually located, like I said, at the posterior part of the human shoulder. Okay? Now, from the skeletal system, this is a model of the human skeletal system. Here is the bone that we call the scapula. The same position, like I said, at the posterior part of the shoulder. This is the scapula. Now that we've actually understood the anatomical position of this particular bone called scapula in the human body, now we are going to be discussing the bone itself as an entity. Like I said, this is the bone that I am holding. This particular bone is called the scapula. First, I will want us to discuss the different parts of the scapula. First, this particular projection here is called the acromion. This is called the acromion. Now, over here, there is another projection, just inferior and anterior to that acromion. This is called the coracoid process. Okay? Now, you will notice there's a kind of like a circular depression there. This is called the glenoid fossa. Later, after understanding the different parts of this scapula, we will also be discussing the relations, some of the structures or bones that also attach to this particular scapula, including the muscles as well as some of the nerves. Now, this, like I said, is the glenoid fossa, okay? Above the glenoid fossa, we have the supraglenoid tubercle. This is actually called the supraglenoid tubercle. Then below it, we have the infraglenoid tubercle. Okay? Now, there is a depression here. We call this depression the scapular notch. The scapular notch. Okay? Then, above this, we have the supraspinous fossa. There's another depression at the superior part. It's called the supraspinous fossa. This is the scapular spine. This is the scapular spine. Okay? Now, below here, we have the infraspinous fossa. Then, at the inner part, okay? That's the inner part, we have the subscapular fossa. Like I said, later we'll be discussing some of the structures that are found or attached to this particular location. Okay, this depression is called the superior angle. This particular depression or the projection upward is called the superior angle. Now that we've been able to identify some major parts of the scapula, we are going to proceed to the borders of the scapula. This area, the thicker one between this and this, there is one that is more thick than the other. The thicker one is the lateral border, while this other one is the medial border. Excuse me. There are actually three main borders of the scapula: the lateral border, the medial border, and the superior border. Okay, now remember I said this is the superior angle. The projection up is the superior angle, then the projection down is the inferior angle. Now that we've been able to identify the different borders of the scapula, we will proceed to make mention of some of the structures that are located in this area. Like I said, remember, the superior depression here, which is called the supraspinous fossa from its name. This is the joy of anatomy. Most of these structures are actually going along with their individual name. Okay, the supraspinous fossa, the muscle that attached to supraspinous fossa is called the supraspinatus. Then the muscle that attached to the area of infraspinous fossa is called the infraspinatus. While that of the subscapular fossa, the muscle is called what? The subscapular muscle. Now, the area that I mentioned, supraglenoid fossa as well as the infraglenoid fossa, this region are the region where the rotator cuff muscles actually attach. These are a group of 4 types of muscle that majorly 3 of them attach to this particular area. Okay, and the 3 that attach to this area are the supraspinatus, infraspinatus, and the teres minor. While the area of the subscapular fossa, that is where the subscapular muscle actually attach. So like I said, this is a major and important bone in the human skeletal system, and it has a lot of movement that actually brings about locomotion and easy flexibility of the part of the human body, especially around the shoulder region. So, well, like I said, we are going to discuss majorly the part of this bone as well as the structures that are attached to this muscle. So from the skeletal system, remember the scapula is located at the posterior part of the shoulder, like here. This is the scapula, and from the model is actually located here. So for today's lesson, this is the little we are going to be discussing. Next time, we will be going more deeper to the discussion of the scapula and other different bones that make up the human body. Thank you for listening.